Hello, nice to see you on my channel, Hearts and Shadows. Enjoy watching.
My name's Adam. When two people make a promise to each other, especially something as serious as marriage, it's expected that nothing could come between them. But the truth is, one mistake can be all it takes to break the trust that holds everything together. And once that trust was gone, everything else started to unravel. What happened around my fiancé's bachelorette party and everything that followed made me realize that sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who can hurt us the deepest, not because they don't care, but because they make choices without thinking about how those choices affect the person they say they love. This is the story of how one weekend shattered the foundation I thought we had. And from there, everything started to fall apart. I met Sarah many years ago during a community outreach program my company had organized. I didn't go expecting to meet anyone, but when I saw her, she caught my attention. Maybe it was the way she took charge of organizing things over there. We ended up in the same group that day, and eventually we started talking. Before the day ended, we exchanged contacts, trying to stay in touch. And we did. We started texting, at first here and there. A couple of messages a week. Just small check-ins and jokes. But over time, it picked up. It went from occasional messages to daily conversations, and then from daily chats to long talks. Through those texts, I got to see who Sarah really was. There was this wild side to her, but at the same time, she was grounded. She had values and cared deeply about her family, her job, and the people around her. I liked that balance. She was exciting, but also dependable. About 4 months into talking, I figured, why not see where this could go? We had been planning to go on a hike together for weeks, and I decided that would be the moment. We were halfway up this trail, just the two of us, and I asked her if she wanted to take things beyond friendship. She smiled and she said yes. That was the start of what I believed was going to be something long-term. And it was. Over the next 2 years, Sarah and I grew into each other. We did everything together. She became my person. We didn't keep secrets. I shared everything with her, even things I hadn't told anyone else. She did the same. There was this understanding between us. I never had to wonder if she was hiding something. I trusted her completely. Our relationship wasn't perfect every single day. No relationship is. But we had what people talk about when they say they found the one. After dating Sarah for 2 solid years, I reached that point where I was ready to build a life with her. We had already done life together in many small, consistent ways that mattered, talked through long days, supported each other when things got rough, shared meals, fought, made up, and made plans. So, when I decided I wanted to marry her, it wasn't just about putting a ring on her finger. It was about starting a family with someone I believed I could build a future with. We had talked about kids before, what kind of parents we'd be, how we'd raise them. We were on the same page about starting a family sooner rather than later. We agreed that if we had our kids early, we could grow with them, still have the energy to be involved in their lives, and maybe even retire earlier. I was actively putting money aside, looking at homes that would be good for raising kids, and working overtime just to make sure we had a solid foundation. When it came to the proposal, I wanted it to be meaningful. Her parents invited us for dinner one evening. But I had already made up my mind that this was the moment. After we ate and shared a few laughs, I stood up and proposed to Sarah right there in front of her mom, dad, and siblings. She cried before she even said yes. I could see in her eyes that it meant the world to her. For a few seconds, it was just the two of us in that room, even though everyone else was clapping and cheering. Before the night was even over, her sister posted the news on Instagram. She put up a picture of Sarah holding up her hand with the ring, captioned something like, "We've got a wedding to plan." By the next morning, both our phones were flooded with calls and messages, people congratulating us, reposting, commenting, asking when the date was. It was overwhelming in a good way, and it made everything feel perfect. We decided not to rush into the wedding. We gave ourselves a few months to plan everything slowly and intentionally. During this time, Sarah started spending most of her days at my apartment. She hadn't moved all her stuff in yet, but for all practical purposes, we were living together. We talked for hours about what we wanted the day to feel like. Every decision was something we tried to make together. It felt like we were already practicing how to make joint decisions as a couple. As the wedding approaches, Sarah casually mentioned, "So I've been thinking for my bachelorette party, I want to go to Miami with the girls." I felt a certain way, but I didn't react right away. I just looked at her and asked, "Who exactly are the girls?" And that's when she rattled off the usual names. Those same friends I'd already told her I wasn't comfortable with. These ones treated life like one long party, zero boundaries, always pulling her into some impulsive nonsense. I never liked how they talked about relationships like disposable napkins or encouraged behavior that didn't line up with how Sarah and I had built our relationship. Still, I stayed calm. I reminded her as gently as I could that I wasn't thrilled about those particular friends being part of an out-of-town trip like that. I tried to explain it wasn't about me being controlling. It was about respect, about protecting what we had. But she pushed back, saying, "They've been my friends for years," she said. "I can't just leave them out now that I'm getting married. And besides, it's just a one-time thing. I'm an adult, Adam. I can take care of myself." I didn't argue. A part of me wanted to push harder, to flat out say no, but another part that trusted her decided maybe she would change her mind. Maybe she'd realize on her own that flying off to Miami for a bachelorette trip with those girls was too much, especially given how I felt about it. So I let it go for the moment. But that hope vanished about a week before the trip. I had just come in from work and was walking past the living room when I heard her on a group video call in a full-on planning mode. That's when I realized she wasn't backing down. She was going to Miami. Later that evening, she came to me with that same cheerful tone. She started telling me all the things they had mapped out: spa days, dinner spots, and boat rentals. As she talked, she noticed I wasn't saying much. I guess I didn't hide my mood well, because she paused and looked me straight in the eye. "Babe," she said, "I'm not like them. I know where my lines are. You have nothing to worry about." I wanted to believe her, but something in my gut didn't sit right. Still, I asked again, quietly this time, "What if they try to get you to do something you don't want to do? What if things get out of hand?" She didn't flinch. She just smiled and said, "It's my party. I'll control it. I just want to make it a night to remember, not for the wrong reasons." So I nodded. I smiled back, trying to mask the weight sitting on my chest. Because when you love someone, when you're days away from pledging your life to them, you want to trust them. And in that moment, I made the choice to. I pushed down my discomfort, told myself she deserved the benefit of the doubt, and let her go. When she left for the trip, she FaceTimed me right after they got to the Airbnb in Miami. Everything seemed normal. She showed me around the apartment, told me who had already arrived, and who else would be flying in later that night. We talked for maybe 10 minutes, light-hearted stuff, and then she said they were heading out for dinner. She looked happy, energized, and excited. I told her to enjoy herself, and she smiled and blew me a kiss before ending the call. As the night went on, her replies to my texts slowed down. I gave her space. I figured it's her party. Let her have her moment. Meanwhile, on my end, I had my own bachelor's party with the boys. We kept it local, nothing involving flights or bottle service or strippers. Just some of my closest friends and cousins at our favorite bar in the city. We played card games, did some challenges, drank way too much beer, and shared a lot of laughs. We were just a bunch of guys celebrating the fact that one of their own was about to get married. We even joked about how the wildest part of the night was probably the spicy wings someone dared me to eat. 3 days passed. Sarah and her girls were in Miami the entire weekend. When she got back on Tuesday, I was genuinely happy to see her. She looked tired, but in good spirits. I gave her a hug and asked how the trip went. She smiled and said it was amazing, just a fun girls' trip, she called it. I nodded and smiled, not wanting to press too much, but something in me just needed a little reassurance. So I asked, "Did any of your friends bring up any, wild ideas?" She rolled her eyes, the way she usually does when she thinks I'm being overly cautious, and said, "Look, babe, anytime someone suggested something that sounded too crazy, I shut it down immediately. But I let them do whatever they wanted. I wasn't there to control everyone. It was my night too." Then she added, "Nothing you'd worry about. I promise." I won't lie, hearing her say that made me breathe easier. She said the right things, and I had no reason to think otherwise. As far as I was concerned, she had gone, celebrated, stayed true to herself, and came back the same woman I wanted to marry. So we moved forward. The wedding was only 3 weeks away, and we had things to finalize. Life picked right back up like nothing had happened. It was exactly 1 week to the wedding. One evening, I had just finished a long day at work, got back home, kicked off my shoes, and sat down for a moment to breathe. Then my phone buzzed. I thought it was just another wedding-related message. But when I picked it up, it was a message from a number I didn't recognize. No name, just the number. And attached to it was a video. It took a moment to load, and when it did, I honestly wish it hadn't. The quality was blurry, like something shot quickly and secretly. But even in that mess of pixels and movement, I could clearly make out what was happening, and more painfully, who was in it. It was Sarah, my fiancée, the woman I was about to marry in a few days. She was on a club floor, grinding on some guy. And then, a few seconds later, the two of them disappeared from the camera's frame together. I didn't know how to feel in that moment. My body felt cold, but my head was burning. I just sat there. I must have played the video at least 3 more times, hoping I was wrong. Maybe this was a prank. But each time, it became clearer it was her. Her dress. Her hair. Her friends are in the background. No doubt. I replied to the number, asking who they were. I said, "What is this? Who are you?" Nothing came back. I called the number. It rang once, then went dead. I kept trying again and again, but it was useless. No one picked up, no text came through, no explanation. Just silence. After the shock started wearing off, I did what any sane person would do. I tried to find out who sent it. I looked up the number on multiple websites, tried a few of those reverse phone lookup tools. Nothing useful came up. It just showed the number had no public record. But more than finding out who sent it, I needed to be sure that what I saw was real. Because if I confronted Sarah, and I was wrong if it was edited or AI generated or something fake, I'd destroy trust for no reason. And there would be no fixing that. So I paused and took a different route. I picked up the phone and called one of my boys, a longtime friend of mine who works in the tech space. He's not exactly a hacker or anything, but he knows his way around tech stuff. I told him what happened. I asked him if he could help me verify whether a video was real or manipulated. He said he didn't have the tools to do it properly, but he knew someone who could. So I forwarded him the clip and waited. He said the friend would probably have time to go through it by the next day. The wait was brutal. I tried not to overthink everything. The next day, I was already at the office when my friend called back. I picked up before it even rang twice. He didn't waste time confirming it. "Bro, that video's real," he said. I sent it to my guy. It's not edited, not generated. I didn't respond right away. He asked if I was okay, and all I could say was, "Thanks for letting me know." For the rest of the work hour, I just sat in that silence. I was drowning in it. I waited until I got home from work to confront her. I didn't even change out of my office clothes. I came in, set my bag down, and walked straight into the living room where she was watching something on TV. I was holding in a storm, and the truth was about to hit both of us like a train. I looked her in the eyes and said, "Walk me through what happened at your bachelorette party, step by step." She gave me a weird look. Those kinds people give when they're trying to figure out if you're setting a trap. She hesitated, then asked, "Why?" I told her I just wanted to hear it from her. Nothing more. "Just tell me." She took a small breath and said they ate, drank, and danced a bit. The next day, she said they went sightseeing. According to her, that was all. A nice, clean girls' trip. So I pushed a little more. "Any guys around your group?" I asked. She shook her head without blinking. "No, it was just the girls." "Okay," I said slowly. "Were you dancing up on any guys at the club?" She frowned and said no. Like, the thought was ridiculous. That's when I grabbed the remote. I didn't say anything. Just walked over to the TV, connected my phone, and played the video. When I turned back to her, her mouth was slightly open. Not an apology. Her first words were, "Where did you get that?" "Seriously? That's your concern right now?" I asked her again. Who was that in the video? My voice was even, but inside I was boiling. She looked down, and her voice cracked. I don't remember doing that. I felt something shift inside me. You don't remember? I repeated, slowly. Only God knows how many things you don't remember doing that day. She started sobbing like she was the one who'd just been ambushed. She reached for me, saying she didn't mean to lie. She just didn't want to hurt me. She kept repeating that it was just a stupid moment, that nothing else happened after that she'd never betray me like that again. But I couldn't hear it. I walked straight to the bedroom, without a word. I took off my work clothes and decided to take my bath. Maybe it will help calm me down, but it didn't after I got out. I knew I needed air. I needed out. But she followed me in, crying and begging, saying she should have told me right away that it was a dumb mistake, that she panicked and didn't know how to fix it. I told her to stay away from me. I couldn't even look at her. Everything fell off. I needed space to think, and I knew I wasn't going to find it in that apartment. So I left. I called my best friend and told him to meet me at our usual bar. He showed up, sat down across from me, and listened without interrupting. When I finished, he looked me in the eye and said, "You don't deserve to start a marriage cleaning up someone else's mess." And he was right. I had doubts. So we drank. And for the first time in a long while, I realized I wasn't sure I could go through with the wedding. By the time I left the bar that night, I was drunk with a gut full of whiskey and a heart that felt like it had been stepped on. The drive back home was a blur. I didn't even remember how I managed to get inside the house, much less make it to the bedroom. All I know is I walked through that door like a shell of myself. The lights were off. The living room was quiet. If Sarah said anything to me when I came in, I didn't hear it. I didn't even bother taking off my shoes or changing out of the jacket I'd thrown on before going to the bar. The moment my body hit the bed, I was out. When I woke up the next morning, head aching and mouth dry, I was about to face the real weight of what had happened. But for that night, all I could do was crash. The next morning was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. I was sitting at the edge of the bed, tying my shoes for work, and I heard Sarah's footsteps behind me. She sat down next to me, silent for a second, then finally said, "Can we talk?" I didn't even look at her. I just shook my head and said, "Now you want to talk? After all this time? You had weeks, Sarah. Weeks to tell me the truth." My voice was low, calm, but firm because if I let the emotion through, I might not have been able to keep together. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and told her, "Don't be here when I get back." She broke down right there, sobbing, but I didn't have it in me to comfort her. Not after everything. She nodded through her tears, and I walked out without saying another word. At the office, I was barely functional. My mind wasn't on work. And then my phone buzzed. I looked down, Sarah's maid of honor. She had been at that party in Miami. I didn't answer. A minute later, a text came in. "You two are solid. Don't throw it away. She regrets it, Adam. She's broken over this." I stared at it for a while. Then I put my phone face down. What did she expect me to do? Pretend it never happened and still walk down the aisle? Later that afternoon, Sarah texted me too. Her message said, "It was one reckless night. I made the worst mistake of my life. I'll do anything to fix it. Please don't give up on us." I read it, but I didn't respond. The thing is, when someone lies to you by omission, while they had secrets tucked away, it changes you. You lose something inside. And in that moment, I realized no text, no apology, no explanation could bring that part of me back. That night, I came home to an empty house. She had done what I asked, packed up, and left. It should have felt like a relief, but it didn't. It felt like grieving something that had already died weeks ago. Around 11 that night, I sat on the couch and stared at my phone. Then I finally typed out what I needed to say. "Sarah, I've thought about this all day. I can't marry someone I'll resent every time I look at them. I know you're sorry, but I need to protect my peace, even if it means losing everything we planned. I wish you healing, but I can't go forward." I hit send. A few days later, her parents reached out. They asked to meet. I agreed out of respect. They were always kind to me. They sat me down and pleaded their case with the heartbreak of parents watching something good fall apart. Her mom said, "We love you like a son. Don't let one mistake define everything. And I believe them. But I had to be honest. I looked at them and said, I love you both. Truly. But this isn't just a mistake. It's a choice she made and a truth she hid. I could stay and fake it. But then I'd wake up every day second-guessing everything she says. That's not marriage. That's a slow death. Her father didn't say much, just nodded and put his hand on my shoulder. They didn't agree with my decision, but they accepted it. To this day, I still don't know who sent that video. Part of me thinks it was someone in her friend group, maybe someone who couldn't live with keeping the secret, or a hater who never wanted us together. But the fact that she didn't tell me herself, even after she had the chance, that's what made my heart cold. Not just what she did, but what she chose not to do. That's the part one couldn't come back from. In the end, this whole thing didn't explode. It eroded. One hidden truth, one night, and a silence that dragged on too long.